Welcome back in, everybody. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube network. That is the gun. I am Rob Ellis. All right, we swing it back to the Eagles and the NFL, and joining us right now, he has been covering the league for the better part of 4 decades, does an awesome job, and he's also got a new podcast digital show on A2D Radio. That would be Paul Domowitch. You can follow him on Twitter, by the way, at PDomo. Domo, how you doing, my man?
Doing well, Rob. How you guys doing?
Great to see you, Damo, as always, man, as always. Anything that's gone down today surprise you from a cut standpoint? Sipos, Covey, Devin Allen, Nagata, I don't know, just to name a few. Anything jump out? Any of those guys you thought would survive?
I mean, Sipos a little bit. I mean, they've left themselves right now without a punter and a punt returner, but they obviously have an idea of what they're doing next. You know, just because they were, had cut both of their punters doesn't mean there's somebody out there they like and know they can get. So it's not it's not a troubling development.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Damo, before we even talk football, I look at your Twitter page, and the first thing that jumps out says, "Semi-retirement isn't working." That is the best line ever, dude. I just want you to know. I just had to bring that up, and that is awesome.
Well, can't you look at that 2 different ways? Either I don't feel like I'm working, or it's not working for me and I need to work. Which is it, Damo?
Hey, when I took the buyout from the Inquirer, my plan was to relax and finish a book on Sam Mills and do nothing else, and that hasn't worked. I started getting some. Yes, I started getting some offers, some feelers to do some work, and I've enjoyed working for the 33rd team, and I'm like on 3 years with them. I do a Monday night radio show with Paul Jolowitz. That's been fun, and this podcast is challenging because it's not I'm not used to talking, so. It's kind of a work in progress, but it's kind of cool to try it,
Yeah, you're doing a great job, Dom.
You're broadening your horizons, man.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So I was going to use an old dog, new tricks line, but never mind, Damo. We'll keep moving here. All right. So looking ahead at this thing a little bit here.
Daily News Live shows when I was home.
Exactly.
I seem to remember those a little bit. Yes. So Damo, looking ahead at this thing a little bit as we're actually, thank God, we're talking about a real game here. But Derek and I a little bit earlier were talking about that Patriots team. As disappointing as last year kind of was from it, it was no doubt, but this is still a really stout defensive team, and you get Belichick this amount of time to prep. Yeah, we'll see offensively what Bill O'Brien's able to do here. But what do you think about this Patriots team?
Well, I mean, Bill O'Brien was the biggest addition they made. I mean, yeah, they were a joke last year with Matt Patricia running the offense. I don't know what that was about. I think it was kind of like Andy Reid's Juan Castillo moment.
Hail Mary,
yeah. Defense. Bill O'Brien's good. I mean, he had his problems down in Houston, which mainly had to do with him being the GM. But as a coach, as an offensive mind, he's solid. I think he'll get the most out of Mac Jones. Their offensive line's not great. The receivers are okay. I mean, adding Juju Smith-Schuster helped. But, I don't think they're going to, I'm not a big Mac Jones fan. I think that the Eagles defense is going to be all over him in week 1. But you're right. Their defense is very good. And it's going to challenge Jalen and that offense. Although, boy, you look at that offense and you don't think anybody can stop it. But early on, there are going to be some stop and starts, some sputtering, you would think. But, it's not a game I expect them to lose. But you're right. That defense could give the Eagles a little bit of problems.
Damo, when you look at this Eagles defense in particular, and it's a very intriguing defensive group, both youth and experience. But what concerns you more, linebacking or safety?
Honestly, Gunner, I mean, going in, I would have said linebacker. I would have said both. And then I watched Sidney Jones play this entire preseason, and him and Reed Blankenship, I think, are going to be fine at safety. They added Zach Cunningham to the linebacker core. I like Christian Ellis. I mean, I don't see a weakness right now. I mean, if there's a weakness, it's going to happen when there's injuries. I mean, I'm a little concerned about what might happen at corner if Darius Slay gets hurt. I mean, he's not a kid anymore. I don't expect him to play 17 games. So, they need to have some depth there. It appears they do, but there's only one way to find out, and that's the real test starting next week.
Damo, go to the other side here. Yeah, you're right. It feels like they are set up and they are deep. Do you like the way they went about things with the running backs, where it's kind of four guys, sort of diverse skill sets? Yes, there's the injury thing with Swift and Penny, but you have guys who can do a lot of different things. Maybe similar a little bit to 2017. How do you view the running back setup?
Yeah, I like it, Rob. I like I don't know what's going to happen with Rashad Penny. He's an awfully talented guy if he's healthy, but I mean, he's missed 30 some games in the last 3 years. So, with a history like that, you're not expecting him to stay healthy. But if he can, I mean, wow. I mean, he averaged 2 years ago, averaged something like 6.5 yards per carry. He's a power back. He gives them a better LeGarrette Blount, which that 2017 team had, a guy that could be a first down pounder, a short yardage pounder. And that allows them to use Kenny Gainwell and Swift as receivers, which, I think last year the running backs caught 48 balls. Didn't look like Jalen really liked to throw to them much. Didn't have to very much because he had those guys on the outside, but teams obviously, defensive coordinators have not been asleep this offseason. They've been looking at this team. They've been watching endless film, especially the division teams of the Eagles, trying to figure out, how do you stop this offense? What's the best way to slow them down? I think they're going to, their main focus is going to be, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside. And the way you counter that is the way they can. I mean, Swift and Gainwell might be the best set of pass-catching backs on the same team in the league right now.
Yep.
And I think they're going to use them this year. I think those two guys are going to catch 100 balls this year.
Domo, when you look at I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Long story short, I like their running back situation, and I haven't even mentioned Boston Scott, who's there when the Giants come to town.
Domo, when you look at the receiving core, beyond the obvious, I would say obvious too. I mean, we know Quez Watkins is going to be the third, but I don't think he's a lock. How do you see the receiving core shaping out? Because I thought Greg Ward, this would be the year he could make it as that fifth receiver. They cut him, hope to bring him back in the practice squad again.
He gets no respect at all, Gunner.
No.
I mean, I've liked Greg Ward since the day I first saw him at his first training camp with the Eagles, and every year it's the same thing. He saved their season that one year. I still think he can play in this league. And I'm not sure that he's going to make it to their practice squad, because I think somebody's going to claim him this time around if they paid any attention to preseason and practice film. They're a little thin there. Because I don't know what Quez is going to give them this year. Zacchaeus was productive last year with Atlanta. So you're thinking, they'll find a way to maximize him. But, I also think that they're probably keeping their eye open at the waiver wire here and possible trades.
Damo, Mariota angst, justified or over the top in your estimation?
Over the top, Rob.
Okay.
I mean, the guy's got a resume with 74 NFL starts. They haven't all been classics, but they've been good enough. He's shown me enough. I like his skill set, the fact that he can run. The first preseason game he played in, he had 3 nice runs. I looked at him, the awful passes he threw in the second preseason game, and kind of just chalked it up to bad mechanics and footwork, which I figured they can straighten out. I know he didn't want to be here from the standpoint of it wasn't his first choice. He made that clear. If anybody's watched Quarterback, the Netflix series, when he said he was kind of hoping to get, go to a West Coast team a little closer to home. That didn't happen, but I mean, that doesn't mean he doesn't want to be here or isn't happy being the backup. So, no, I thought it was over the top. I'm happy with him as the second quarterback. You look around at what's happening. Look at Arizona. I mean, geez. They just, they're a mess.
Like Damo, they look like they're setting up for a tank to grab a quarterback, yet Kyler Murray's got 3 years guaranteed at massive money. What are they, it's like, what's the point?
I think, they like Dobbs more than anybody else because a couple of their coaches coached him and feel he can get them through 4 games till they get to Kyler Murray. But that's not such a great thing either. Getting to Kyler Murray, from what we've seen of Kyler Murray the last couple of years. So, yeah, they're just a wreck. Their GM and coach supposedly are better than what they've had. Certainly, we know the coach. We'll see. I think this is going to be just they're going to be a 4-13 team this year probably.
Damo, back in the NFC East, I don't know how closely you tune into what's going on down in Washington, but I saw a quote from Ron Rivera yesterday, the day before, where he said, had I known this Sam Howell was this good, I'd have started him a lot sooner than last year. I didn't know he had this kind of talent. So you got an unknown quarterback there with Eric Bieniemy. They've got talent everywhere else. What do you make of this Washington team?
I don't know, Derek. I'm not real hopeful that to make it. I think that, and Ron's playing. He doesn't know how long he's got. I don't know what Josh Harris has in mind. Is he looking at Ron and saying, "Yeah, I got to get myself a new coach next year," or is he saying, "I'm going to give this guy a chance"? His history in other sports has kind of indicated that he'll be willing to give him a chance. But I just don't know that they have a pretty good defense. But Sam Howell's. I'm not going to say he's not very good because I want to see him play first. He was a good college quarterback. I think Bieniemy will get the most out of him. They've got some good running backs, but they're the 4th best team in this division. So what's that worth? 7-10, 6-11.
Yeah, it's a good point. Let's stay in the division for a minute. The Trey Lance trade with Dallas.
Yeah.
Not only does Jerry make the trade, Damo, he also mentions it, hey, if Jalen Hurts was still there when we were picking in 2020, we would have grabbed him too. I'm Dak Prescott. I'm like, man, it's coming over both shoulders here at me. And on top of that, Damo, he doesn't have guaranteed money beyond this year. Is this just a big setup for you better deliver here or else you're bye-bye?
Well, they can't, anything's possible with Jerry, but geez, you'd have to be, what have they seen? Trey Lance, when San Francisco gives up on him that quickly, what's that say? Kyle Shanahan is no dummy. He's, him and John Lynch are pretty smart. So I don't know what Jerry's trying to do here. Maybe he thinks he wants to be, have some insurance. Maybe he's looking at Trey Lance and saying, well, look, nobody thought Jalen Hurts was going to be a superstar when he was drafted in the 2nd round. Maybe that's Trey Lance. I don't know. You're right. I don't think it helps Dak's mental confidence. You could kind of look at it the way a lot of people looked at what Carson Wentz was feeling when Jalen was drafted. I don't think it'll bother Dak. Dak knows what he has to get better at. He's got a good offensive line in front of him. So I don't know what's going to happen there, in the next few years. I think Dak will be fine this year. I don't think Trey Lance is going to be my guess is unless Dak gets hurt, Trey Lance never leaves the bench.
Mm. All right, let's go up the turnpike to the Giants now. Year 2 of Brian Daboll. Rob and I have been debating this summer, and I want to get your perspective on this. The Giants' schedule this year is a lot tougher. We saw what Daboll was able to do with Daniel Jones last year. Made him a much better quarterback in a lot of different ways last year. you look at the free agents they've brought in, except they just picked up Isaiah Simmons recently. Do you think the Giants, record-wise, will be better or worse in 23?
Boy, I'd say about the same, Gunner, because of the more difficult schedule. That's probably going to offset some of the improvement they've made as a team. But I do like the fact that they've really added receivers for Daniel Jones, including the tight end. I watched one of their games this preseason where, Waller was just, you could see if he can stay healthy, he can be what he was for 2 years with the Raiders. And that's a good thing for a quarterback like Daniel Jones to have. I think it's all going to be about injuries there. I mean, Barkley's got to stay healthy. Their offensive line doesn't have much depth, so they can't afford any injuries there. But the offset, I think the more difficult schedule is probably going to offset the improvement in that team, and they'll probably end up being, the same record.
Domo, look at the defensive side for the Eagles. Desai, new linebacker, secondary coach. Some new faces, some inexperience in places. And you mentioned Sidney Brown and what that looked like with Blankenship. But are you expecting a bit of a learning curve here defensively where the offense is way ahead of them early? Or do you think, that's something that maybe we're making a little bit too much out of on that side of the ball?
Well, there'll be a little bit of a learning curve, Rob, I think. I think, Desai has the same approach as far as not giving up the big play as Gannon did. And I think that's going to be even more important early on because there are going to be some mistakes. So as long as they don't give up the big play, I think they'll be fine. It's, it all comes down to that pass rush, just like last year. Will they have 70 sacks this year? Probably not. I don't think that's possible. But they'll be in the neighborhood. I mean, they'll be in the 60 range. Assuming everybody stays healthy. They've just got, they've got at least a minimum of 4, probably 5 guys they can rotate on the outside, depending on what they do with Barnett. And inside, adding Jalen Carter to Fletch and Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. I mean, it's a deep group that I think is just going to be pretty relentless as far as going after quarterbacks. They're not going to blitz a lot. And I always forget about Reddick because he right. Technically lines up at linebacker, but assuming that thumb's fine, I expect another big season out of him. So, that's what it's going to be all about for that team, just like it was last year. And there's no indication that it's going to slow down. Desai doesn't blitz much like Gannon, but he lines his people up a little bit more differently so that he disguises things. Same with his, he's not as predictable, so that'll help. I think they'll be fine. I like Desai. I like both of their coordinators. I've said this several times in the preseason and even the offseason. I think both of them are one and done. I think both of them are going to be head coaches in this league next year if you take the scenario that this is going to be a Super Bowl team.
Delmo, going back to the running backs for a moment, will any one individual, when you look at the depth of that running back, will any one of them come close to rushing for 1,000 yards?
I think Penny can. It's all a matter of health, Gunner. If he stays healthy, I think he definitely will be it because I think he's going to get the bulk of the carries. I see Swift and Gainwell being more third down, second and long backs, guys they can use as receivers. So I would say that if Penny stays healthy, he's got the best chance of being a 1,000-yard rusher on that team.
Dom, I look at it. There's a couple different spots that you worry about a little bit for sure, but I don't see a whole lot offensively. When we start digging into like backup tight end and third wide receiver and the guard spot, which I think is just going to be fine. This should be, again, a top 3 offense on every level. You've covered a lot of quarterbacks in your day. Have you seen a guy this young act the way Jalen Hurts acts and be as focused as he is?
No. I got to admit, I saw a lot of Jalen in college because my wife is an Oklahoma grad, and we watched a lot of Oklahoma games his last year. And when everybody was condemning Howie for picking him in the second round, I liked it because I thought at the very least they were getting themselves a good backup quarterback if Wentz played the way he was playing before he collapsed. But then you saw that first season when they put him in for those last 4 games, and you saw people like Jason Kelsey and the rest of these veterans just immediately believe in this guy. You knew the kind of leader he was. And then, since then, the focus, the never satisfied attitude, standing on the sidelines during the Super Bowl with all that ticker tape going on, he's standing there trying to absorb the moment as far as how disappointed he was then and how determined he wanted to be to never let it happen again, where it's somebody else's confetti is raining down. I mean, I think this guy's, he hadn't hit the ceiling yet. I mean, I think he's still got a lot of growth, a lot of improvement. I think this year we're going to see his completion percentage go up even more. I think he's going to be a better red zone quarterback than he's been. It's going to be interesting to see. Last year he ran 165 times, which was the most of any quarterback in the league. But a lot of those were sneaks or kneel downs, so that's going to go down. But are they going to use him any less? That's what we'll see. It's such an important part of his game that you don't want to dissuade it, but you also don't want him to be playing with a bum shoulder or a bad leg late in the season and playoffs when it counts. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think the kid is just, he's the most fascinating quarterback I've ever seen, covered. What he can do, his mentality, it's just amazing.
Hey, Domo, whether it's a player from last year's Super Bowl team or a newcomer, rookie or veteran alike, give me one player that you're going to really hone in on this year. You're really intrigued to seeing on this Eagles roster to see how their season transitions.
Probably Sidney Jones, Gunner.
Sidney Brown, you mean? Sidney Brown. Yeah.
Sidney Brown. I call him Jones one more time. Smack me. I just love this kid. To watch him fly around. You've heard it. Every broadcaster compare him to, at least style-wise, to Troy Polamalu. But that's what you see. He's going to make his share of mistakes, but I think he's going to be a terrific player, and we're going to be talking about him all year. And every Sunday, he's a guy that I'm going to be watching.
Damo, listen, man, we appreciate it, and we love having you on the show. And best of luck, where you're talking a lot more on the A2D show. And what is the name of your the program, Damo, for folks who want to check it out?
It's Birds Report. That's the only name apparently I could come up with that wasn't taken.
There you go. There you go. Birds Report. All right, Damo.
You guys wait for a call because I'll be asking you to be on. So
we're ready, willing, and able. Yes.
And what about this book you're talking about? What stage are you with the book?
About half. I got most of the research and interviews done, Gunner. It's a matter of writing it. I just haven't done anything on it since probably the last 10 months. So I just need to I probably won't get to it in earnest until after the season. And then hopefully I'll finish it in a matter of months after that.
Nice.
And what you said, Sam Mills. Why did you pick Sam Mills of all?
Well, I think he's just a terrific story, Gunner. I covered him back when he started with the Philadelphia Stars in '83. He's a guy nobody gave a chance to at any level. Canadian Football League flunked him. The Cleveland Browns, he didn't make their camp. He gets, if not for the USFL, he doesn't. He's out. He becomes a shop teacher, and he just ran with that chance and ends up in the Hall of Fame. So, his motto was, give me a chance to fail, and they gave him a chance and he didn't fail. And I just always wanted to write that book. Finally started it, got a chance, did like about 70 interviews. And then I took the buyout and all of a sudden I was busy.
And I know what a big proponent you are of his for the Hall of Fame too. You fought You fought hard.
Yeah, he belonged in a lot sooner than he got in, but I'm glad I was able to help get him in because he belongs there.
Absolutely. Damo, good stuff, man. Thanks for a couple
you,
minutes. Appreciate it.
You bet, guys. Take care.
All right, take care. It's Paul Domowitch. All right, Gunner. So a couple things NFL-wise. Demar Hamlin makes the Bills team. There was some question, obviously not to be cynical. I don't know that it was going to happen from a PR standpoint that he wasn't going to make the team, but nonetheless, I mean, he had to show them enough that he was there, or else they would have put him on a PUP list or something else. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good sign for him that he's at least physically close to where he needs to be.
Rob, I'm thinking the same thing when I saw that. I wonder how much had to be weighed behind closed doors in Buffalo. We can't make this look like just a sentimental decision. It has to be strictly a business decision. But with that business decision comes the prospects of could something happen again?
Yeah.
And that's a tough situation for Buffalo to be in. But obviously, Sean McDermott is not just going to keep him on the team for sentimental values. Mm-hmm. So obviously, he's passed every test that they could possibly. He's been medically checked over and over and over again. And then he had to get out there and physically do it.
Right.
So obviously, he's cleared every hurdle that you could possibly clear. But he's definitely a player that everybody in the country that watches football is going to be watching for. If you get a chance to see the Buffalo Bills, they're going to be watching to see how he does. Is he on the field? How are things going? So on and so forth.
Yeah, no question. A close eye on the Bills, that's for sure, on a lot of levels. So Eagles-wise, what we know thus far is Sipo's out, which Derek Gunn was the first to report right here on Sports Take. We know Britton Covey. We know Devin Allen. We know Greg Ward, Julian Good-Jones, Josiah Scott, and Brady Russell. That's what we have thus far. They have to make
Ngata's been cut also.
And Joseph Ngata, the receiver. Yeah. I would think, he's
another one that could very well be back on the practice squad if nobody grabs him.
100%. He just screams of a guy you're going to try and get back here, which you may be able to get him back without anybody grabbing him up, although there is some good size there, for sure with him. So that one is going to be one to keep your eye on. The cuts that we know of already, or like they came down the last couple of days from an Eagle standpoint. Real quick, offensive line: Cameron Tom, Dennis Kelly, Brett Toth, Josh Andrews, Tyrese Robinson, Roderick Johnson to the IR. These are receivers now: Deion Kane, Johnny King, Jaden Hazelwood, Freddie Swain, tight end Dan Arnold, Tyree Jackson, quarterback Ian Book, running back Kennedy Brooks, D-tackle Marvin Wilson, Caleb Sanders, Olivier Segapalu, Robert Cooper, linebackers Quentin Bell, Tyreek Maddox Williams. Now, we haven't heard anything yet, Derek, on Trey Sermon. We've seen teams make moves. We've seen trades happen thus far. It's usually a day where Howie Roseman is active on that level, bringing somebody in. There is still time, obviously, and you're still awaiting over the next hour and a half which guys get released that you might have interest in. In other words,
exactly.
A punt returner, a punter, a kick returner, maybe, some depth at certain positions. You're still just sitting there waiting because some teams have, an embarrassment of wealth at some spots.
Speaking of looking at somebody of interest, the Dolphins cut Chosen Anderson. Would you take a look at him if you were the Eagles?
Yeah, he's just a bit of a knucklehead. I do.
He's got ability. He's got ability.
I mean, he can still run, right? I mean, there's no question about that. It was not all that long ago he was over 1,000 yards receiving. So there's if you're looking to change, switch out of Quez Watkins for a more experienced guy who has a similar skill set, that might be something you want to look at. Yes, Chuck, we did mention Sipos getting cut, and D Gunn did have it. He had it first. So we will continue to dig into that. Yeah.
One other note, Rob. I don't get this. I don't understand it. But people who want the Eagles to look at Ariza, they are now going to bring Ariza in here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you before, if this was just an Eagles thing, I'd say, come on, guys, what are you doing here? But since nobody's doing it, there's something going on here. There really is. There's something going on that I am concerned about.
I asked the question. No, we are not bringing him in. Seriously, can you tell me why all 32 teams have not approached him. Not sure. He was cleared of everything. That's
Weird.
what we've said.
Does he not interview well? I don't know.
When he was in the league, when he was with Buffalo, all we heard about was this dude with this booming leg who was booming kicks. He's been cleared of everything.
Yeah.
Why is he not with the team? Obviously,
I know
fans want him here, but why is he not with the team?
Well, like a civil suit that's pending is not enough to keep somebody out.
No,
there are other athletes and other NFL players who have had civil suits against them, and they have. I think there's still one against Deshaun Watson, frankly. So, I mean, it's not like that shouldn't be the thing that's stopping this. If that's what it is, I don't know. I don't have an answer.
So Deshaun Watson still has civil suits out there, but he's getting $231 million guaranteed. Simples is a punter. What would he cost somebody at the very most? Even in a bidding war, the very most he might cost $3 or $4 million.
Yeah,
for 1 year. We'll sign you in a 1 year trial. See how things go.
I know. It's very strange. The whole thing is strange. All right, let's come back, Derek. We'll continue to update you on the Eagles' other NFL news. Weird happening last night in Colorado with the Braves game with Ronald Acuna Jr. in right field. We'll dig into that a little bit more. And a couple other odds and ends that we're going to hit before we get into birthdays and movies and all that good stuff. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, a JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. Right back.